in a shared workspace.
Es tu papita, es tu cara, es tu pelo, son tus besos, me estremezco. Oh, oh. Cuando calienta el sol aquí en la playa, siento tu cuerpo vibrar cerca de mí. Es tu palpitar, tu recuerdo, mi locura, mi delirio, me estremezco. Oh, calienta el sol. Aquí en la playa, cerca de mí. Es tu palpitar, es tu cara, es tu pelo, son tus besos, me estremezco. Oh, cuando calienta el sol aquí en la playa, siento tu cuerpo vibrar cerca de mí. Es tu palpitar, tu recuerdo, mi locura, mi delirio, me estremezco. Oh, calienta el sol. Calienta el
Good morning, everyone. So what a way to start the morning, everyone. Good morning. Wasn't that a lovely song? Thank you, everyone, for waiting patiently. I think we're ready to begin. And on behalf of Vitalink, Eduworkforce Partners, EXP, and our distinguished panelists, welcome to today's virtual event, or as I will call it, our conversation. My name is Dr. Kenya Cueto. I am the founder and CEO of Eduworkforce Partners, LLC. I will be one of your hosts and facilitators today. So let's start with our agenda. Housekeeping. There will be a brief introduction of our hosts and facilitators of the event. Then we'll turn it over to our keynote speaker, Dr. Nubia Feliciano, who will give us an overall presentation regarding equity and access and culturally responsive approaches through the lens of parent engagement by reviewing important concepts and ideas about culturally informed practices. She will define terms and connect concepts and ideas to definitions that will help frame our conversation today. April will then introduce each of our panelists and give them a couple of minutes to share what they do within the realm of parent engagement and serving their communities. I will then move on to the questions for panelists and what I think I'd like to call conversations with Cueto. If time allows, we will move on to number 4. If not, I will briefly review the slides with you before we end. We have a full schedule, so let's move on to housekeeping. If you haven't already, please add your name, title, region, name of school, company, or organization in the chat box. Please make sure to mute yourself. If you're not familiar with, if you are not a facilitator, a guest speaker, or panelist, please shut your camera off. You may write questions or comments in the chat box. We will try our best to answer all the questions after the panel questions come to an end. Thank you very much. So today I'm going to begin with a quote that I read in the Latino Leaders magazine. According to the US Labor Bureau, 1 in every 2 workers that enter the workforce in 2025 will be Hispanic. That's not far away from now. In fact, it's already happening. Today, companies focus on recruiting the next generation of leaders by having to create unique hiring initiatives and strategies. I'm going to add academic institutions to the list. As we in education recognize, outreach, recruitment, engagement, and enrollment are ongoing challenges in all levels of academia. More Latinos are entering the workforce and enrolling in community colleges, adult education programs, and universities. But when we speak about filling the workforce pipeline, especially during the pre-COVID era, institutions, industry, and workforce development boards are finding it difficult to reach and send messages about opportunities and valuable resources to a large segment of Latino population. The term equity and access has come to the forefront, but some folks are not clear as to how to define it in the working terms. In today's conversations, we focus on equity and access through the lens of parent engagement in the Latino community. We are the largest minoritized group in California, but what we will speak on today also carries the same or similar messaging as other underrepresented groups. Research shows us that parent engagement is critical to a student's success, no matter their race, ethnicity, gender, or socioeconomic status. In the Latino community, age is also not a factor. Parents play a critical role in education and other decisions such as career choices. So how could we dismiss this critical piece of the puzzle? What can be done to include parents in our conversation and invite them to our table and include them to be partners in our regional initiatives? We are honored to have Latino parent leaders, academic scholars, educators, and business owners that are experts in our field and in this topic. We hope you will find this unique perspective and conversation meaningful. I now pass it over to my regional partner and colleague, President of VitalLink, April Barnes, who will introduce herself and our panelists. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you, Kenya. So excited to be here. So excited to be a part of this conversation. Just to give you a little update, just kind of overview of what VitalLink does. We're a nonprofit in Orange County. We're dedicated to preparing students for their future careers through experiential learning opportunities. Our mission is to inspire students to explore and experience career pathways in order to secure their future. We offer students getting out of the classrooms. We focus on getting students out of the classrooms to get career experience through exploration. We offer programs that introduce students to the world of robotics, engineering, manufacturing. We do healthcare, medical, commuter programming, digital media arts, automotive technology, and more. And we do these through hands-on programs that we inspire students to feel confident about it and excited to pursue a fulfilling career. So that's a little bit about VitalLink. And I'm very excited to welcome our other nonprofit in the room here today, partnering with us, our CEO from EXP, the Opportunity Engine, Amy Gretz.
Thank you, April. And it's awesome to see you at the helm of VitalLink. We've been working together in this quest to help connect kids to careers for many years. And it's wonderful to see you be able to collaborate. EXP, the Opportunity Engine, we are a nonprofit work-based learning intermediary that has been working with Los Angeles primarily area schools for the last 22 years. But we've grown from our original one school international trade academy at Phineas Banning High School in Wilmington to now working with 11 schools across 4 school districts. But the key is connecting students to awesome opportunities that will help prepare them for better lives. Our programs are focused on being an embedded partner in the high schools that we serve to bring the business community and the larger community into the classroom to create context for the curriculum that the teachers are providing, but also bringing the students out into the community for large-scale activation events like a GPS Your Future or Women in STEM Career Day. But the jewel in the crown of our programming is our summer internship program, which we've been delivering every summer between junior and senior year for 21 years. And I can say specifically that it was recognizing the importance of parent engagement and involvement in this critical part of our work-based learning continuum that enabled us to grow from 50 students participating in our internship program in the early 2010s to over 100 in more recent years, bringing parents into the process and making them our partners has helped us enable more students to have fantastic internship experiences. So I'm very excited for today's conversation because I know that we at EXP have more to learn. Thank you, April.
Thank you, Amy. Next, I'm going to introduce our keynote speaker. Dr. Maria Nubia Feliciano holds a PhD in education. She also has her master's degree in counseling with an emphasis on student development and higher education, as well as a bachelor's in social sciences with a specialization in cognitive sciences. Her research interests focus on the experiences of individuals and communities at the boundaries, and specifically on Afro-Latinidad. She teaches part-time at Cal State Fullerton, UC Irvine, and Chapman University. She instructs on such topics as leadership, ethics, feminisms of color, race and ethnicity, ethnic studies, human development, and identity. She advocates for access to education because she believes it is a human right. She currently resides in Southern California with her family. She's the founder and CEO of Colegas Group, a company that provides professional development and collaboration opportunities for scholars. Please welcome Dr. Nubia Feliciano.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much. I really appreciate the introduction and being in such wonderful company. It's funny, Amy, when you mentioned Phineas Banning High School, I actually went to Carson High, and they were our rivals, our crosstown rivals for a really long time. I was in the marching band, so, but still, it was a wonderful collegial rivalry. I just wanted, now that I know that word, so. Yes, Carson. Yeah, it was fun. So, but today I want to sort of bring together a lot of my personal experience and my professional academic experience to help those of you listening and viewing this presentation understand the importance of parent engagement. It truly is the one thing, that secret, like I said here in this title, to developing a successful education to workforce pipeline. It involves using culturally informed approaches and practices in order to not only provide successful or enriching opportunities for the young people that you're recruiting, but also helps your own organization continue to grow successfully. But to start off, I'd like to make sure, and we're not going to be able to go through all of them, and I'm not expecting you to also retain or remember, but I wanted to highlight some key terms that you will all be hearing throughout the presentation that are so embedded in what is considered culturally informed practices. Things like equity and access and funds of knowledge and cultural capital. Those are things that shift the center of attention from what you have to offer to what your young people have to offer, and also contextually where these young people come from. Starting with cultural capital, we're still sort of figuring out what that word means in many research opportunities, endeavors, and spaces, but it essentially means everything from both the personal experience to the familial, to the cultural, to the historical experiences that a young person brings with them when they walk into your classroom or your summer opportunity program or an internship or an apprenticeship. They come with uh, an understanding that is actually very unique and beneficial. It is their cultural capital. We often see when we're talking about white students, their cultural capital is that their parents can afford to pay for tutors and one-on-one coaching, whether it be for sports or academics, or flying them out of the country to incredible opportunities abroad because they have um, discretionary funds to do that. Uh, but cultural capital for the underserved and underrepresented communities are the cultural ways of navigating our world. Uh, it informs what some may see as resilience, but it really is resourcefulness because we in our community are just as driven to succeed as any other. It's just that we don't have money to throw at an obstacle to knock it over. We just either do workarounds or sort of gather our collective forces, both figuratively and literally, and push that obstacle over. And that's, that cultural capital. And then talking about the cultural glue, that is really the cultural uh, wellspring from which our students are connected linguistically, culturally, familially. The language itself, although not, depending on the time in the United States, a young person is in, it may or may not be something that they speak every day, but it has informed their understanding of the world and how they see themselves in it. Most, especially in the Spanish speaking community, we're very community focused, not individual focused. And it is a really hard adjustment to when we hear either teachers or school counselors or people who bring opportunities to our students. It's like, well, this is your life, and you should just go for it. Your parents shouldn't rule your decision making. Well, actually, they do a little bit. For many students, they understand that depending on how their families got here, they may actually articulate that this isn't my life to live. I need to ensure that I acknowledge the sacrifices of the grown-ups in my life and make sure that I take advantage of all the opportunities available and make them proud. So that cultural glue is something that keeps our young people connected to the community and uh, informed, it teaches, it provides a support system. So these students, um, there's nothing pathological if you see them struggle. You have to change the thinking that these students are really trying to put themselves together from the culture that their family is from to the culture where they are at now. And they're becoming a hybrid and a cultural translator. And that takes a little bit of time and it takes some adjustment. But realize that that is going to benefit them and any organization that chooses to bring them on as an employee or a leader. And I just want to make clear about that. And that familial capital, again, goes back to that kinship and bond outside of family within the community, because there's a clear understanding that our children are just not our own. That nuclear family concept doesn't exist in many Latino communities or communities of color. All of the grown-ups in the person's life feel an obligation to protect them, to guide them, and that young person is also accountable to them. So there is a different way of organizing family, that it isn't this person just belongs, quote unquote, to two people. No, they are part of a community, and they know as they see this model that as they grow up, they will then also be responsible for the young people that are coming up after them. So it's that familial capital that we all benefit from and invest in as a cultural group. So the key points when you're pursuing culturally informed practices for parental engagement is that, again, going back to the key concepts that we talked about: equity and access. And equity didn't have an opportunity to review, but equity is not equality. It's really it's informed by an education term where you understand where your person is and give them the resources they need to get them to where you need to be. And so that means at some level, there is an individual assessment of what that person brings and what they then need to get them to where you need them to be. It isn't going to be the same for everybody. So that's what informs equity. And so to use equity and equality interchangeably is incorrect when you think about it. And the access piece is important. We can't, again, going back to the shifting in the thinking that many underserved and underrepresented communities of color in the workforce come from, pathological or deficit environments. We don't. We just need access. But once we have access, we just need an opportunity. And that's what the programs that you bring forward will provide. There's no lack of motivation. There's no lack of resourcefulness and commitment. We just need access. And so giving the young people what they need to get them to where you need them to be and giving them access to those opportunities are key. Parental engagement is important because, as I'll talk about later, we're not just going to let our children loose to total strangers. That's just not going to happen. So you have to bring in the parents and convince them that this is an important opportunity, not just for the person and the young person, but for them as a parent and as the community. Your opportunity is going to increase the communal and cultural capital of the environment. So you have to reframe that. You're not coming in to give something and we need to feel grateful for it. You have to convince us that this is something that will benefit the community and it'll be mutually beneficial, and that you understand that parent engagement is an important piece in the recruitment process. Culturally informed practices and approaches meaning that you don't necessarily have to be bilingual in the language of the community that you're targeting, but at least get to the point where you're comprehending what you're hearing. That's the advice I often give those who want to go into teaching, classroom teaching. The students don't necessarily need for you to be fluent in the language they speak. It would be helpful if you understood what they said so that you could model English, but you allow them to express themselves in the language they are most comfortable with, hear what they have to say, and then say, oh, okay, so what you're telling me is this, and then model the English language back. That is the same approach you need to take with parents. Many parents do there's a lot of access to English language classes for parents for free, usually in the secondary schools, but many of us don't have the time, and so we learn secondarily English. So we listen to the radio or we listen to the TV. So one of the culturally informed practices that you can engage in is get a sense of the language that the parents or the community speaks, so that they can feel comfortable enough speaking to you in their language, and you then either can model back a little bit that you know, or speak English, because many of us at least comprehend English. We just have trouble the speaking the language, just like you might be able to comprehend our language, but you have trouble speaking it. That doesn't mean we can't communicate. And that's a really important approach to create bridges, create trust, show investment. The concept of race, class, and gender are things that you also need to consider, that as speaking specifically to the Latino community, we are not monolithic in the slightest. Like, for instance, I'm from Puerto Rico. I'm not from the big island of Puerto Rico. I was born in Vieques and I grew up in Culebra, two very rural communities. And then I come here, land in Carson, and encounter hesitancies and troubles in finding my place and the community around me finding where to put me. So you have to approach the Latino community with the understanding that there's a huge within group difference. That don't come in with a stereotype or an archetype and force us to account for it. Don't make presumptions. Don't assume that we all speak Spanish, because many of us come with indigenous languages. And so those are all and don't assume that we're all from a particular class situation either, because many of us choose to live in our communities, but we may also be working in professional fields, quote unquote, like medicine or law or engineering, but we want to be with our community because the cultural capital and the cultural wellspring that for to have access to that for our children is more important than living somewhere else that is more conventionally aligned with our income. Okay? And then with gender, boys and girls can do the same thing. For instance, both my children are enrolled in the auto class at their high school, and they're both thriving. And why? Because their teacher set up that environment. He doesn't allow for any disparaging language. He makes everything accessible to everyone. That's the approach you need to take. So don't think that the auto shop should be targeted at a particular gender presentation. No, it's to everyone. It makes it accessible to everyone. And that way, again, the cultural capital and the resources and the talent that you have access to is multiplied. Focusing on the Latino community specifically, understand that we don't, even our holidays are not the same. Our language is different. The Spanish I speak is a little bit different from the Mexican Spanish that you might hear. It sounds different. So also don't come in with a particular presumption about things, and allow the community to show ourselves to you. All of those things inform how you need to approach our community with the resources you have available. And don't assume that we're going to be grateful and so, well, thank you very much. We can't say no if it's not something that we feel is important to us as a community, or for our children, or it's not being presented that way. And the connection to the community college is a really important piece. Oftentimes, like with a PhD in education, graduating in the top, I was one of the 10 students from Carson High. I went to the community college for 3 years part-time while I worked full-time because my family needed the income. And then I eventually transferred to UCI and finished there. And then after about 7 years, then I went and got my master's. And then after 3 years, I went ahead and finished my doctorate. The community college was an important bridge. And many of us go there for a lot of different reasons. It isn't necessarily that we're unit deficient or we can't, we're not emotionally ready or whatever the case may be. It's just that it fits the plan at the time. So the community college has to be a place where you do some of the recruitment. You may find us there. And so connecting it to parent engagement, define equity, access, and culture through research, parents and community leaders. Do your research and don't come in with cookie cutter or what are those called? There's just these boilerplate approaches. Understand the current research and understand how the community would want to receive this information, if at all. And don't just come in with auto shop and all the other things that sort of slot us into conventional working class roles, because at some point we will hit a ceiling. And then we look up and everybody who's in managerial roles has their BA. So encourage also pathways to complete our 4-year educational opportunities in order for us to continue to advance. Invest in us, you get loyalty. Explore culturally responsive approaches and best practices used in parent programs to educate, engage, and recruit. So understand, knowing that parents are a vital link to the young people you want to recruit. Go where we are, speak to us, become code switchers in that sense. There's one way to speak to the young people you recruit. There's another way of speaking to their parents, and you cannot ignore that. Learn about the benefits of engaging to help build your pipeline. The parents are essential. Again, we will not let our children go loose to strangers. They are our future. We understand in many indigenous communities, we think 7 generations in the future. You're not just going to come in and grab our kids. So yeah, that having that understanding that it's an investment in the long term, helps you understand how you have to shift your priorities and the resources you allot to our community. And so you have to shift from transactional to transformational, build relationships. That's why even when you're looking at the police department, having programs in the community where you start students trusting and engaging with and having the police sort of have a grow your own program. They are embedded in the community. They understand, they can see the subtle nuances. They might know these children. They can see the codes of conduct, the behaviors, the subtleties, allows them to be more subjective instead of coming in with these objective goals. And it's like, if you do this, then these are the consequences. Instead of, I saw this, what is going on? I know this young person's family. I wonder I wonder if that parent is still alive, or if something's going on, let me approach them first to see what's going on, instead of going from action to consequences. So building those relationships help embedding yourself in the community, going to events, long term. It has to be a long term, and be authentic. Come in knowing what you can offer and what you can't, and build trust. That's an important thing, especially with parents. Understanding that you're impacting the lives of students trajectory wise. Opportunity is what's most important. The children need to understand that what they're learning in the classroom can be applied into a particular opportunity that you're providing, so that they can see the relevance of what's happening in the classroom. You're introducing change and growth into the lives of families. So you're coming in and now embedding yourself into the life story of these families. That's a huge deal. You have to take that in as a responsibility. And the important point, telling and showing parents that their children will be safe and will thrive in the experiences you provide for them. It is really important that our children feel safe. It isn't just an opportunity that they should go to. We need to make sure that our children remember where they're from, and this will be an add-on. There's a value added component to what you're doing and what you're providing for them. And reciprocity. You need us as much as we need you. So the power dynamic, you have to come in with that understanding. We come with the cultural capital, the cultural glue, all of those things that you need, right? So this isn't you taking. We need something in return. So it has to be reciprocal, and understanding that it is more than a transaction. We are both being transformed in the process. Investment and trust goes both ways, and genuine engagement will result in genuine commitment. We don't need to be saved or pitied. We really only need opportunity. That's it. Opportunity that we have not had access to, but we deserve, because we invest we come here for opportunities with a lot of gumption and drive and the skills and expertise, and we will put in the work and we'll put in the time. But oftentimes we're not seen as such because people see us with stereotypes, and you need to set those aside. Parents as cultural glue, and these are the 4 things that, for me, define that. We're the source of cultural knowledge through modeling and storytelling and dragging our kids to events and cooking things. Like, I cook Puerto Rican food, and my kids are like, I don't know if I like this. It's like, well, I'm going to keep making it until you do. So we're very insistent on these things. We protect our children. We're the biggest cheerleaders. I mean, we really, really are. And we must be included in the outreach, because we are, we're very cognizant of the fact that they are a part of us. And so we must be included in what you're going to help them achieve in their next steps. This isn't special treatment. This is the new normal. This is how you must now engage with all communities, specifically communities of color. You have to transform as organizations, and realize that this is how, in the 21st century, we need to engage with one another. Thank you very much. I really appreciate the time and opportunity to speak with everybody, and I'll be part of the rest of the event. So hopefully we'll have a chance to chat. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nubia Feliciano. It was so wonderful to hear from you, and I definitely learned a lot of things that we can do better at our organization, that I can do better in our community. And so we very much appreciate you, your time being here this morning. Thank you. And so now we have the panel that I'm going to introduce here. So we have some amazing speakers here today on our panel on how to build an equitable education to workforce pipeline through parent engagement, and continuing that conversation. And I'm going to introduce each of the panelists, and each panelist will then have about 2 minutes to kind of talk about your program and what you do. And then we'll kind of go through everyone, and then we'll bring in Dr. Cueto to ask you some questions. So first, I will go with Dr. Katie Brown. She's dedicated her career to making language learning more accessible and effective using innovative technology and research-based best practices. She earned her PhD in second language acquisition from the University of Maryland, where her research focused on cognition and learning language. She has led teams to design award-winning language courses. She spent years evaluating and analyzing language learning products, and she has conducted extensive empirical research on how to create online language programs that are efficient, effective, and entertaining. She holds 10 patents on the technology that she designed. She is a founder of Engine, a public benefit company. Her current goal is to leverage this technology to provide high quality, needs-based English instruction to immigrants and refugees, rapidly giving them the tools to advocate for themselves and their families to improve their economic outcomes. Welcome, Dr. Katie Brown.
Thank you. And thank you for the intro. So as you said, my background is in language learning, and my whole goal is to think about how we can remove English as a barrier so that when we're talking about both parent engagement and student engagement, we don't have problems of communication. Talking about culturally responsive communication and making sure that both parties understand and they're able to communicate in the language they feel most comfortable is fantastic. And when we think about preparing the workforce and the role of parent engagement, so often our parents who speak other languages rely on their children to translate for them, and something gets very lost in translation because we are putting the burden on the child to communicate, and we're taking agency away from the parent whose job it is to try to help the child figure out what he or she or they should do. So the perspective that I can bring to this conversation is about misconceptions about how language learning works and whether we should translate everything and rely on everyone's first language, and what we can do to try to make language learners get access to the English that they need for their real world goals. Because parents almost always want to get the English they need to do something else. And often what they want to be able to do is help their children. So I really do think that when you're talking about language learners, whether it's with newcomers or with people who've been here for generations, getting rid of the English barrier is often the first step to equity and access.
Thank you so much, Dr. Brown. Next up, we have Dr. Susie Lopez Guerrera. She is currently the Director of Community Relations at Santa Ana Unified School District, where she has developed a comprehensive network of partnerships with stakeholders throughout the county. The collaborators that she works with are local businesses, community organizations, parent groups, and other Santa Ana Unified departments, school sites, to establish leverage mutually beneficial relationships. She is currently leading the practice of family and community engagement throughout the Santa Ana Unified School District. Dr. Lopez Guerrera joined Santa Ana Unified School District in 1999 as the first grade bilingual education teacher. During her tenure, she has served the community as a teacher, mentor teacher, community technology liaison, curriculum writer, professional developer, presenter, certified learning, and achievement specialist. Please welcome Dr. Guerrera.
Buenos dias, Susie Lopez Guerra, Director of Community Relations, first-gen Mexican-American, bilingual, biliterate, biculturate. And so today is my pleasure to kind of balance and add on my previous colleagues. The practice of family and community engagement at Santa Ana Unified started as a bouncing off of parent involvement, and I always get the words confused, but I want to focus on why we do what we do. And my previous colleagues have stated, we look at Maslow's as understanding and being culturally reflective and responsive to where our families are and heighten what talents they bring, whether it be their social, cultural capital, and then connect it into how it relates to educational practices. Through those partnerships, we engage with our local colleges, including, and we're going to go into the workforce, but including not only the CTE route, but also the non-credit programs with our partners such as Santa Ana College, so that as our students are matriculating to the system, so are we walking with our families, but also developing their possibilities and creating this nexus between access, equity, and engagement. The next slide, please. I think I have to. We have developed the practice of family and community engagement through the research of Dr. Karen Mapp out of Harvard, which focuses on its dual capacity model. And a lot of what we've been focusing on is walking with our families. And I use families, and I know we're going to go back and forth because the nucleus of the family structure within our community is so diverse that we wanted to make sure that it was an inclusionary practice and setting those conditions. And we're still in the process at Santa Ana Unified of changing the mindset and the culture from involvement to engagement. And that's what I hope that we delve deeper into during today's conversation. Thank you. And it's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Next, we have Marina Elena Merez. She is the CEO of Parent Engagement Academy, a community-based nonprofit organization continuing a lifelong passion by informing and training parents of underserved communities to promote post-secondary and college education as the only way to upward mobility. Parent Engagement Academy is focused on creating a positive impact in education for the future of our children. Ms. Merez has brought over 27 years of experience in parent engagement and has successfully served 8 school districts in the state of California, providing direct services in Southern California and implementing a license agreement with the direct SERS in Modesto, California and Mexico. Please welcome Marina Merez.
Good morning, everyone. Well, I'm so happy and proud to be here with all of you. And I totally agree with Dr. Nubia Feliciano. I've been working with parents and families for the last 27 years of my life, and I truly believe that the parents can make a difference in the student success. And the question is that, how do we do this? And all the parents love the children, and all the parents want the best for the children. The challenge is that they don't know how to connect with the schools. They don't know all the services available. And when you mention about parents that they don't speak Spanish, that they bring their own dialect, we've been having the opportunity to work with a district in Santa Maria Bonita with a lot of parents that speak Mixteco. And it's another level, right? Because those parents, they don't see that they have to be with them, checking homeworks and all that as part of their role in their lives. They believe that just providing, roof and food and clothing, it's enough. So been working with parents as a practitioner for all these years, I believe that the parents can make a difference, understanding the school system, understanding college, prepare the kids for college. And if the students wants to do it, in the administrators and the counselors and the schools wants to do it, but if the parents are not part of the equation, we may have success, but we may not. So that's why I truly believe that parent engagement, it's the key. And I witnessed that through so many years. So thank you so much for this opportunity to be here. I work for another nonprofit for 22 years, an executive director. And in 2007, we founded this new nonprofit called Parent Engagement Academy. At this point, we've been working with 10 school districts in Southern California, 1 school district in the north, and also implement the same template of the program in Mexico, and works exactly the same way. And at this point, we've been serving almost 11,000 families in 5 years. And we're very, very happy serving 170 schools so far until this point, and we're ready to start next year. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Next, we have Yesenia Navarro. Yesenia has worked in the public elementary education for the past 25 years. She started her career as an elementary school teacher in Los Angeles Unified School District, and for the past 20 years has worked for Anaheim Elementary School District as a classroom teacher, resource teacher, and currently is a curriculum specialist focused on parent engagement. She supports the district goals to oversee parent engagement programs for the 24 TK through sixth grade school sites. Please welcome Yesenia.
Thank you. Thank you for having me this morning. So I bring the perspective of elementary parents. So we just heard with Dr. Nubia Feliciano about parent engagement being such an important piece. We heard about relationships and trust. And where does that start? That starts early on. So many of us think or talk about college in the high school years or close to graduating, but no, we need to talk about the opportunities for our children early on and planting that seed early on with our parents. Now, we are a school district, TK to sixth grade. We have preschool as well. We have about 14, almost close to 15,000 students. And as you can see here from our demographics, we have the majority, we have a lot of Spanish speaking parents, but we also have other cultures as well. We actually have a great amount of families who are socioeconomically disadvantaged, and all our schools are Title I schools. My goal with parent engagement for the past years that I have been working with Anaheim Elementary School District is work as a team with not just our colleagues, but work as a team with our parents. And through that, next slide, please. Through that, we've had an opportunity about 6 years ago to create what we call Parent Leadership Institute. And these are parent volunteers, but we talked about cultural glue, and who better than to be the cultural glue than our parents. Our parents are the voices. Our parents are the ones who can help us build that trust. And here we have parent leaders, and you can see the growth of when we started in 2016 to where we are now, over 170 parent leaders who represent the different school sites, who represent different grades, who represent also different cultures as well. Even though we have a lot of Latino, we have different regions of that as well. And through that PLI, as we call it, we've had the opportunity to offer also professional development for our parents, for them to also connect with the other families, be that extra communication. And just as we heard Maria Elena, parent engagement is such an important role. We need the parents to help us spread the words. We're hearing about all these amazing opportunities, and parents early on need to hear about what that is. What are the opportunities for their children so they can support? And yes, I'm a Latina too. I'm an immigrant born in Guerrero, Mexico, and my parents wanted the best for us. But at the time, my parents didn't know how. So we, through experience, want to provide all those tools to our parents. And at Anaheim Elementary School District, we're very fortunate. Our 24 school sites have what we call FACES, Family and Community Engagement Specialists, who are also our cultural glue. And we work together as a team. So we see each other as a team, not just with the FACES, but with our parent leaders and our whole community at large. We have been very fortunate to have such a strong PLI team, as you can see, grow throughout the years, where some of our PLI parents have even used their experience and their volunteer time, because we have some of our parents even do parent workshops themselves for other parents. And they've used this experience and this opportunity to also for themselves to grow professionally, who maybe have not had an opportunity in the past, but even use this experience to add to their resume and go back to school or work in the community or volunteer in the community and be involved beyond their child's education and be that role model and be that partner for not just the school district, but the community and for their child. So we're very fortunate. We are very blessed to have such amazing parent leaders. And actually one of our panelists here today is Maritza Bermudez, who's one of our parent leaders who has been with the PLI program since it first started. And our goal is to provide that equity, as we just heard earlier on, and to bridge that and to connect with all our families and also hear from them. What is it that we need to grow in? What is it that we need to provide to them to continue growing and to continue supporting? So we look at feedback a lot all of the time with our parent leaders and all our parents at large. And we are very happy to see our parent leaders be involved in many committees, not just at their school site, school district, but sometimes now and even in the community. So to be that voice and to be that leader for their child, who better than to just partner up with, right? Because we want the best for all our children. And that's something that we strive in PLI, as we heard earlier, is it's the community, it's all the children, not just their child, but everyone else. So thank you for having us today. And we look forward to engaging and supporting each other and in our vision for today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We have here next is Dr. Patty Paredes Huerta Mesa, is the Executive Director of Padre Unados, the family-founded local Orange County-based community nonprofit. She received her doctorate in clinical psychology from the American School of Professional Psychology and obtained a master's degree in marriage and family therapy. She completed the competitive American Psychological Association approved pre-doctoral internship at San Bernardino Community Department of Behavioral Health. Her rotations focused on community mental health, forensic correctional psychology. She also completed her practicum placement in California Institution for Men in Chino. She is a licensed clinical psychologist and an adjunct professor at the Chicago School of Professional Psychology. Her areas of interest include strengthening communities, multicultural education, and mental health, bringing access to resources, equitable practices to communities, treatment of shame, trauma, and forensic and correctional treatment. Please welcome Dr. Patty.
Buenos días a todos. Good morning, everyone. I have the privilege of sharing my story with everyone here. And I had this whole spiel about what we do and who we are, but I think everyone has touched a little bit of who Padres Unidos is. And, starting with engagement and community and meeting people where they are, walking with is a huge theme with us. So the only thing I think I want to add to that is that Padres Unidos is de la comunidad, con la comunidad, en la comunidad. So we are of the community, with the community, in the community. And we provide, we walk with families exactly where they are at. The whole Maslow's before Bloom, and then the Bloom kicks in. And I've had the honor and privilege of working with many of you. And I like to start off most of my presentations by saying, I am my mother's daughter. I think everyone here knows that parent engagement is important. I think that's why we're here. Most of us are here because, we realize, and there's oodles of research that shows and talks about parent engagement and how successful children, adults, teenagers are if parents are involved. So what better way than telling my story, which is I am my mother's daughter. So my mother actually founded Padres Unidos. She was a co-founder. She was an immigrant from Guadalajara, Jalisco. She weighed 500 pounds when she got here, and she didn't speak any English, just was completely, anything that you can imagine could possibly go wrong in someone's immigration story, she went through it. Added to that, she was married to my father, who was an abusive, alcoholic, Latino male, machista, very much within the traditional norm of what you would see in that from where he grew up in. And he ended up leaving the family. I was about 10 years old. She had 5 kids, weighed 500 pounds, didn't speak the language. Nobody wanted to hire her. So she decided the only way she was going to be able to get us through life was to model for us what it was like to go to school. She enrolled herself at Cypress College, didn't speak the language. Cypress College wanted to put her in the remedial ESL languages. She said, no, I'm gonna, even if I flunk out of basic English 10 times, I'm starting from even the basic classes. She worked her way up, got her AA, got her bachelor's in human services, and then got her master's in social work and worked for the County of Orange for over a decade. After that, she decided her and another mom from the community that we serve actually also decided from their garage to put together the organization. And as such, we have served more than 5,000 people every year. This includes children, parents, adults, grandparents, because like Dr. Feliciano mentioned, you know, it takes a village, you know, it takes the whole family, it takes aunts, cousins, neighbors, you know, it is so key and critical that we meet people and leverage their strengths. And a lot of that is their safety net system. And how can we strengthen that safety net? How can we add a piece to the web of who they are and that tapestry? So I am looking forward to continuing this conversation with everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to share my story.
Thank you. Next, we have two parent panelists from our local community. Maritza Bermudez was born and raised in Anaheim, where she continues to live. She has 5 children, ages 22, 13, 7, 6, and 5. Maritza is very active in her children's school PTA, Parent Leadership Institute, School Site Council, and many district committees at Anaheim Elementary School District and Anaheim Union High School District. She also loves to volunteer in the community with different local organizations and be active in civic engagement within the city. Welcome, Maritza.
Good morning, everyone. I'm very privileged and excited to be here this morning. You know, like you just mentioned, I am a parent, and that's my role. I don't pretend to ever be anything else. When I am in the spaces within my kids' schools, that's just who I am. I'm the parent and who I advocate for their needs and the needs of the children around them in our community. One of my children is autistic, so I also do a lot of work within the special needs spectrum. Just everything that you guys are saying, I'm even kind of emotional because, you know, just the fact that I'm here with you and being a testament of the work that you all do works. I am the result of that. I just graduated. I graduated high school. I didn't go off to college. Well, I did, but then I got pregnant with my older daughter, and then, you know, just life happened. And but I always told myself that I wanted to be the best role model and do the best for my kids, and that I was going to give them the best education possible. And I always say that my kids go to the best schools because I'm there, I'm engaged, I'm involved, I'm present. And this program here, the PLI program that Anaheim Elementary School District, when they first opened up, I was like, wow, this sounds so great, but I never imagined the outcome that this really would lead to nowadays. Because I now hold a job. I'm a community organizer for a local nonprofit with my focus in education, being in spaces at the local level and also in the state level, doing advocacy work and working on recommending policies. And it's just that empowerment. I can never thank enough to Miss Yesenia for all the support, all the guidance, all the constructive, you know, criticism, you know, just guiding me and just me being able to take it and run with it. I do participate in a lot of nonprofits in my community as well. I sit on boards and do a lot of events for my community. And all this has been possible because somebody gave me the opportunity to have a seat at the table and to hear my voice and to hear through my lens, because that's what I am, a parent. And I'll always say that I never pretend to be anything else but a parent. And I think earlier, Kenya mentioned, and I wrote it down, so we are the experts, right? We are the experts when it comes to our children. And I want to say that I don't take this lightly, because we are the voice for many families where parents are working 2 to 3 jobs, are not present, can't be there, and just, you know, putting out their needs and not being seen to anything that we are saying to be seen upon like a hammer. Like we don't want to work with the district. We just want to just say the bad things. But no, we like to celebrate the great things, but work on what needs to be worked on and be that partner and just hold each other's hands, because at the end, it's for our kids, it's for our community. And so that's just a little bit of what I do and the work that I do with Anaheim Elementary, because we could be here all day of all the great things. But I am very blessed to be here with all you, for the opportunity to be here with all you again. Thank you.
Thank you, Maritza. Our next parent here is Sofia Flores. She's originally from Guadalajara, Mexico. Sofia Flores is the 11th of 14 children. Her parents raised her with a traditional home with Catholic values. She immigrated to the United States to support one of her brothers who was left a widower with 4 children. She is a survivor of domestic violence and currently advocates and facilitates love circles with the survivors of families that have lost a loved one through crime. She dedicates her life to her teenage son and to her community. As Sophie began to heal the trauma left behind by her abusive husband, she met Padres Unidos, who supported her in rebuilding and reimagining herself. She received a 2-year Community Worker Award for the collaboration between Padres Unidos and Chapman University. Her specializations include case management and small group facilitation. To this day, she continues to work with the Padres Unidos team, supporting working alongside and strengthening families. Welcome, Sophie.
Thank you, everyone. And I'm very emotional. Uh, See everything you do for us, for parents, because I am parents, single parents. I have the fortune to meet Padres Unidos. He give me the opportunity. Everyone. I say she because my mentor Patricia, mom, she gave me the opportunity, uh, with example, um, she believed in me, and I can do something different for my life, for my son life, for the community. That's why I'm here. I have many people around me. I try to help with maybe with a little seed in his heart to improve their self for them and for the child. So I am here. I never thinking I be here with all doctors and share my experience, but I'm here with all my heart and my vulnerability. My bureau is the English. English, I know very well with the English, but I never give up. I try, and sometimes I say words without sense, but I try to make my best for my family, for my community, because Padres Unidos have a lema to say familias exitosas forman comunidades exitosas. So I try to improve myself for give my son the example, because my parents teach me with the example. That's why I'm here in USA. I never think I come here without, but God have one purpose for me, and I try to work with that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sophie. That was beautiful. It's so nice to have you join us today. Thank you. Next, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Cueto. She's going to do her questions with Cueto. Dr. Kenya Cueto is the founder and CEO of Eduworkforce Partners. For 15 years, she has been the leader in education with expertise in building transformational partnerships. Her mission is to support industry, organizations, workforce development agencies, K-12 districts, community colleges, adult education, and ROPs. To create an equitable education to workforce pipeline. Her experience is also in building strategic planning, program development, regional initiative, and funding alignment, community engagement, and marketing. Please welcome Dr. Cueto.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for attending this event, this conversation. I'm speechless. I don't even know how to thank you all of our panelists and our parents. Oh my gosh, Sophie, Maritza, You guys are the main stars of this event. So you're not just parents. We're all parents, right? We are all parents, but you guys are the reason why we're doing this. So thank you for everything. You almost made me cry. Okay. I'm going to start with some questions. And wait, let me take a breath.
You want me to do it? Yeah, well, this is also an example of how it's so important to why connecting with parents is so important. We have such an incredible vested interest in the future of our community and our children that there is no going around us. If you want genuine, authentic connection with the community and what we consider our most important and vital resource, which is our children.
Yes, thank you very much. And when we talk about cultural glue, we talk about it's not just we're not talking about high school students only. We're also talking about the parents. We're talking about the panelists that are here. We are the cultural glue. You are the cultural glue. We take the messages to our communities. So this is what's very important for us to understand and for the workforce development to understand. So this is why we start this conversation. And this is why we're going to have these questions. So all of you have kind of brought your expertise and your experience, and you've explained it a bit, but now let's just bring this all together. And one of the first questions that I have for the panel is, and hopefully, we'll have 2 answers per question. This question in particular, I'm hopeful that one panelist from a parent engagement organization and another parent from an educational institution can answer this. So, and please make this brief so we can get through. I think we have 10 questions. To bring some clarity to our guests in a few sentences, what is the difference between parent leadership group coming out of a nonprofit organization versus one that comes out of an educational institution? Who would like to answer that?
I think I can do that.
Okay.
Parents don't, in my experience at this point, parents, not all of them, of course, don't understand the school system. How does the school system function? So when a nonprofit connect with the parents, that's what we do. That's the only thing that we do as a nonprofit. The school district, they have so many things. So the institutions, they have so many other things to do. So for that reason, I believe that the parent engagement programs are successful because we connect with the families, we came from the community, we invite other parents that they learn also the importance of parent engagement, to invite them like peer-to-peer, parent-to-parent connection. And then also the facilitators, their parents, they're part of the community, they live in the struggles and they know and understand the needs. So in my experience, the nonprofits connect with the parents for that reason. We become the glue, like Dr. Nubia mentioned at the beginning. I truly like that. So this, in my opinion, that's what it is.
Thank you very much.
And I can continue with that one, coming from an educational institution. So our parent leadership group, obviously, yes, it's also the cultural glue, but also within the educational institution is then for specifically to, one, provide the resources and tool to support their child academically And also social emotional learning right now is really huge, and in education, especially coming out of the pandemic, which we are right now. So in an educational institution, for example, all these terminologies, LCAP, school site council, Title I, all those terms, and providing the parents those tools for them to be engaged and involve other parents. And as we get that trust, and as we build that relationship, then we also start getting feedback, authentic feedback from the parents. Okay, what else can we provide you? So your child, because they're there for the success of their child, and eventually the success of all the students, and then eventually work as a team, like we mentioned earlier. So our parent leadership is that extra communication to our other parent leaders on what's going on, and what are the tools, and what is the grading system, and what are the resources to help your child further in academics, but also what resources are out here in the district and in the community, because that's what we provide to our parent leaders too, all those tools to support your child with social emotional, with any needs you might need, whether it's like food pantry. They're that extra because they're that trust. And then we work together to bring those parents in to be more involved, bring more new parents in, because we want the parents to feel comfortable in knowing that the school and the district is there to work with them. And we want to work with the parents, and the parents, it's like our PLI or our parent leaders help us bring in those parents, help us bridge that gap. And ideally, our parents are coming in because we all want the best for our children. We all do. And then just giving them those educational tools for them to understand on how to advocate, and also how to be involved, and not being intimidated by a lot of the terminology that takes time to learn, and a lot of basically policies, and also learn to navigate through that for our families, especially as Marita said, also for families with special needs.
Thank you. Thank you. Next question, please. So going back to Dr. Nubia Feliciano's presentation, referencing transactional versus transformational partnerships, what has been your experience? Does anyone have an example of a successful transformational partnership?
If I may, I'd like to jump on this one. I think that what those of us who are English language learners, which I think a lot of us are, I go back to the word involvement versus engagement. And to me, transactional is just a one way, right? If we go back to educational practices, it's that direct instruction where we don't value everything that our community brings. So then we're being disrespectful of the funds of knowledge, of the social capital, of the ethnic, cultural, everything that comes with the richness of who we are as individuals. Where the transformational is when we're walking with our families, right? And I think that in partnership with nonprofit organizations such as Padres Unidos, Anaheim Union, or Anaheim District, and SAUSC have been able to engage in a practice where we walk with our families, right? We develop spaces where they feel comfortable, and then the family and engagement staff who support this are the bridge or the nexus to make sure that our families feel that they belong, which in fact they have, but also do it the other way around, right? In the transformational practice, they engage with the staff in the schools to make sure that they understand the value families bring to the table and the necessity they are as our students continue to grow. And going back to that equity and access, they allow us to really engage in that. Where the transactional is, when I began teaching many years ago, is when we would have parents come and make copies for us or set up for parties, right? Rather than walking with them and saying, these are the expectations of our students, and this is how we, as a village, are going to ensure that they meet that they reach that social, emotional, and academic potential. And I think those are the biggest differences. For us, we're still in the journey. I established the practice of family and community engagement, and we've been able to do a lot of things. I no longer oversee it, although I'm its ambassador, and we can have a whole conversation on that. But I think it's And Dr. Nubia Feliciano mentioned this, as those of us who have been brought up and raised in this community and understand the struggles, we can now connect with our families and really say, this is how we're doing it. We chose to come back and live and serve in our communities. So we have that different connection. It doesn't always have to be that cultural or that linguistic reflectiveness. We don't have to look or speak, but it's that respectfulness. I think that's being part of it. In my over 2-decade service in Santa Ana, I've been able to see that the students are seeing themselves reflected in the students, in the administration and the board. And I think that's so powerful, because I can tell you that the first time that I saw someone who looked like me, regardless of what people think I look like, was when I did my doctoral studies. And to me, this is so important, when our children can engage with us linguistically or culturally, and our families feel that they have someone who they can speak with and is not speaking to them.
Thank you so much. And really quickly, when we look at the workforce development boards, and when we're talking about transactional versus transformational, I think also, companies or industry can't come directly into our schools or into our community to assume, without building a relationship, and also looking at the fact that they also need to transform themselves when they come in to partner with our community. So, we look at it in an academic sense, but we also need to look at it in a, outside of academia and education, when other folks come in to speak with our parents and try to connect with our parents, and try to bring in the messaging or the resources. How is it that they should do it? I think that these are the same messages that we have, and the same type of methodology that they should be using. Dr. Katie Brown?
Yeah, I wanted to piggyback on the idea of communicating with parents, to say that and you can use it with workforce boards too, when people are thinking about delivering messages in a one-way stream and translating the message and giving it to parents, but not creating a culture where parents can contribute to the conversation, it's very transactional. And a specific example of a transformational partnership have been a couple of programs I've seen, where the English as a second language program for adults through a local elementary school has really focused on parent engagement and giving the parents the language they need to advocate for their children, versus using a one-size-fits-all, teaching everybody the names of the days of the week and the animals at the zoo. And I've also seen it with large employer English programs, where what happens is the employers offer English to the employees, but what they want is the language they need to advocate for their children. And when they are asked to demonstrate how it's helped them, what they say is, yes, I got a better job, but also my daughter was getting C's and D's in school, and now she's getting A's and B's because now I have the language skills that I need to advocate. So often the parents who struggle with English, no one will even see them because they won't go to get help. They won't be part of the outreach. So just not overlooking them. And I think thinking about helping them in a transformational way, where they're getting the language skills so that they can do the work themselves, where we're giving them the tools they need to advocate on behalf of their children, makes a huge difference.
Thank you very much, Dr. Brown. Next question, please. So this question is for parent leaders. What methods do you feel are needed to leverage the messaging to the non-English speaking community? ¿Qué métodos cree que son necesarios para llevar el mensaje a la comunidad que no habla inglés? Sophie or Maritza, if you'd like to answer.
I can give some insight on that. I think, first of all, building that trust, and that language should never be a barrier for anything. And that our schools are equipped with someone that can help with that translation or that interpretation of materials, or the message that we're trying to get. And also, when we're looking at staff, I know a lot of you mentioned that some of the staff needs to look like us, right? So we can also build that trust, and that they can speak our language as well. I know that in our schools, I can say probably most of all our faces speak Spanish. And I think that's just a plus, because that's our go-to person. And also if that person is approachable and has that, where we don't feel like judged, because sometimes we feel like we can't like say things because don't seem to think we have that education. And the fact that the person is giving you that trust and is really listening and then following up with any concerns, because a lot of times I hear a lot of parents, oh, it's because I go and they don't listen to me or can't communicate. And the fact that like a lot of us also parent leaders have been trained, we also become that that partner with that parent, and we go to the schools and, hey, this mom has this concern or whatnot. So that also builds our capacity to have that, I guess that like leadership to help them, even though we're not an employee, but we're community with them and they trust us too. So I think just having that open relationship and just that building that trust. I think most of all, anything is building trust within the families, that they're welcome, and not even just the Spanish, you know, with the different languages. I know we have like Arabic speakers. We have different families that speak different, you know, languages. I myself have my child in a Korean program, and sometimes, you know, have felt lost, but the teacher, she's really amazing, and, you know, giving the information when I see the homework that is in a different language I can't understand, you know, just reassuring that there is that support.
Thank you, Maritza. Sophie?
Yeah, I want to add, trust is very important, but empowered to them is true, very important. That because sometimes the Spanish people, we know, try to speak, even when we understand what they say. Uh, Sometimes it's only we embarrass because no, they's going to laugh at me. I very older to know speak very well like I supposed to be. And it's not only with the connection the uh, teachers, principals, and leaders for the community is what is uh, my son perspective for me. No, mom, you don't speak Spanish. You quiet. Don't say nothing, mom. You don't understand, and that's why. And we need to build with our son first and say, you are very important to me. I need to know what happened in your world. So I need to involve in my son life to empower because he is my motor. I know be here since I know have him because for him I tell out to stay and come here with no know nothing about the what is going to be for me. So I think the empower to parents is very very important.
Wonderful. Yes, you're right, Sophie. And going back, you know, you remind me of my mom because my mom used to say, I learned how to speak English. I don't care by fighting at school. And you know, and she had a very thick accent and it was she didn't care. But I think that and my father, on the other hand, he didn't want to go because of that. And I think that many parents do stop from going because they feel like they are not given that empowerment or they're given that respect that they deserve. So when we look at this, besides the flyers in Spanish or in Arabic or Korean or whatever language, what else do you think is needed? If there's because I'm not talking again. I keep on going into the workforce and other places outside of academia. There are many resources, many initiatives that are coming in that want to reach our underrepresented communities, and they are not having as much success as they would like because they don't know how to send the message. And this is one of these are the organizations that I feel are the cultural glue: the parents, the parent engagement organizations, and the folks that are leading in their community. What is it? What other methods besides flyers and commercials are needed to bring these resources into our communities that are very, very important, not just for our students, but for our parents. Because once you're already engaged and you're ready, and you're especially our parent leaders that may need, may want to continue their education. How can we reach you? What is it that you need from the outside to get this message to you?
I think what where I am, not where the people want to be myself. So if I not involved to them, I think I no need to walk. Need crowd with them
Mhm.
because they need the hands. So I think I don't know how to explain that.
Español, dilo en español and we
Y
could
nosotros te
translate.
traducimos, Sofi, tú dale.
Sí, ándale, dilo en español.
Ya, creo que necesitamos caminar con ellos en el lugar donde ellos se encuentran, porque queremos a veces caminar y ellos no pueden ni siquiera sostenerse en pie. Ah, son,
Espera, porque si no se nos va a ir. Dijiste algo muy interesante y lo voy a traducir, pero caminar con ellos en el lugar donde están. ¿Puedo
correcto,
traducir eso?
sí,
She's saying that we have to walk with them where they are, in the place, whether it's mental or physical, that they are. Sophie, en el lugar mental, emocional o físico donde están, ¿cierto?
en el familiar, el contexto de cada individuo, de cada familia, porque incluso en cada familia hay diferentes lugares donde estamos.
Mhm.
Someone wants to translate that one?
That in the
Think-
context of a family, each person is different, and each person, they need to see each person in the place that they are at. Just like a student, pretty much. We need to meet the student where they are. We also need to meet our parents where they're at. So if there's an institution or a resource or a let's say workforce development boards or an industry that wants to come in to send the message, they need to know who their population is. They need to know who they're speaking with. Correct, Sophie?
Correct.
And again, we're talking about transformational partnerships. These are partnerships. These are relationships. These are investments that we're putting in to our community. So it's not just, hey, we know this nonprofit organization or the faces that are helping parents. Let's just give them a flyer. It's much more than that. Correct, Sophie? Es mucho más. Es invertir el tiempo en la comunidad, en nuestros padres, para poder saber qué es lo que necesitan y cómo pueden mandarles la información que se requiere.
Correcto. Y también es más allá de dónde están ellos, es la cultura que traemos colgando. The culture is very, very important. We carry my mom, my grandma, my grandma culture, and it's like tattoo. I can't live that, but I need to understand, immerse in this culture with the help the leadership, the parents, the teachers, the principals, the faces, the everyone. I think respect the cultures is too very, very important.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And this is why we're doing this. And I'm so proud that Sophie and Maritza are part of this conversation because we need your voice. So thank you.
Good morning.
Yes.
I'm so sorry, and I apologize for interrupting your meeting. If I may, my name is Juan Gonzalez. I am a public affairs manager for SoCal Gas. I've been listening to the meeting. I actually got invited by Yesenia Navarro this morning to participate. I want to say a few comments as what was mentioned right now by the last speaker about heritage and culture, which is very important. If I may, let me share, I am super proud to listen and continue to be motivated by the messages being delivered by the participants this morning. obviously all the work that is being done to transform and actually continue to make partnerships with different entities to continue to support parents and kids for the future is fantastic. I myself am a product of the Anaheim City School District, Anaheim Union High School District, attended local community colleges in the area over in Fullerton and Santa Ana, and I was able to graduate from Cal Poly Pomona with a political science degree. And right now I work for a Fortune 500 company, and a lot of these opportunities is because, again, parent involvement, the continued push and strive to do better, which is what my parents brought me to, in order for our families to become better within, to obviously my parents want better and more things for their kids, which is what they taught us, me and my brother. In part of the ongoing conversation, I would suggest that the opportunities for the school districts to potentially work with and set up partnerships with the local large businesses. I can share on behalf of SoCal Gas, we're proud to be able to participate in a lot of ongoing organizations and not only support financially, but also be able to support in bringing our professionals to schools. And this is actually one of the ways that I was able to get involved with Yesenia, where I brought engineers to the local school to speak with parents and students and be able to share that information that I was mentioning it earlier, is that people can see what other professionals are doing, people who look the same as they do, that, and be hopefully inspired to, like, if I see that person in that position, that, sometime in the near future, I myself can be placed in that location. So also working with Dr. Susie Lopez Guerra, who's been just fantastic and phenomenal at Santa Ana Unified. Working with those partnerships is just fantastic. And as an individual who is proud to carry both flags, I'm an American, proud to be an American, but my culture and my heritage as a Mexican, both my parents come from the state of Zacatecas. I'm proud of that too. And to be able to share that and inform and share with parents, it doesn't matter where you're coming from. The idea is that to work hard, work diligently, and the sky's the limit if you're willing to work for it. I apologize for coming into the meeting. I'm actually out in the field, but I wanted to make my comments on this item and truly inspired by everybody who's participating in this event. So, and if we can be of any resource, please continue to have us in mind, and we're more than happy to participate. So again, I apologize for jumping in the meeting, but I wanted to share my comments as I have another meeting to attend to.
Oh, well, thank you very much for sharing. And we'll hang out with Yesenia and ask her for your contact information. So thank you very much for coming on. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Dr. Huerta Mesa, you have your hand up. Thank you very much for being so patient.
No problem. I kind of wanted to add to the messaging that Sophie was kind of highlighting, that we have to meet people where they're at. And I think I've heard it from everyone up here. A story kind of came to mind, and as you can tell, I love stories because I feel that that's how we transfer knowledge is through stories. So I was remembering, so we have a partnership or collaborative with Chapman University, who helps us develop community leaders. And one of the things that kind of came up in our very first meetings as we sat at the table was they came at us and had their curriculums and had all this stuff. And we sat back and, I have this like flashback of my mom's face when she looked at them and said, "You can't change us. Don't try and change us. We need to change each other." So if your goal is to change how Padres Unidos approaches families and walks with families, this isn't the right partnership. So we're going to leave. She literally stood up, was going to walk out. She's like, no, wait, come back. And that actually opened up the dialogue for parents. We had parents there, we had the leaders of the organization there, and the leadership within the college that we were walking with. And it actually set up the stage for how the curriculum was co-created and developed. I couldn't remember who mentioned it in terms of language and kind of pushing the parents and also allowing them to emote in their language. And thank you guys for letting Sophie speak in Spanish, because I think sometimes we miss the essence of what's going on because there's that language barrier, but we really don't miss it because we can feel it, right? I think everyone can feel the emotion behind the conversation. But the curriculum was developed in a sense where the classes are done in the language that the majority of the participants are. So if the majority prefer English, classes are done in English. If the majority prefer Spanish, the classes are done in Spanish. However, we keep the textbooks in English. And, like, well, how are the parents going to learn the concepts if the textbooks are in English? Some of them don't even read, let alone English. So we do that because it actually creates their own community within the classroom system, which is, there are some parent leaders who can read English. There are those who are a little more, versed in, have certain strengths in one area and then others in another. So what they end up doing by the end of the first semester, they get together. Those who can read English will translate the stuff, the chapters, and then they will give those to other leaders within the classroom who will then take those to the other parents who can't read. And what they'll do is they'll read those chapters together. So in the translation, in the language distribution, in the reading out loud to those who can't read, they actually end up learning the concepts much better than I, as a professor standing up in the classroom, could ever do, because it's organic, it's innate. So how can we leverage messaging to the non-English speaking community? By making it organic to them, by letting them take the role and knocking on their door. One of the moms spoke a different dialect. She and I don't, I know Spanish and I know English, maybe a little bit of French, very minimal Japanese, but I did not speak her dialect. And I remember sitting in there, and this was before she even joined the Chapman team. She needed, her kiddo was not doing well in school. So the school district asked us to please go, see if there's something we can do to support the family. Knocking at her door, this like delicious smell came out when she opened the door. And I remember thinking, how am I even going to talk to her if she doesn't say, well, I can speak Spanish? So she opened her door, sat me down, and offered me food. Mind you, it's something I had never tasted or ever had, but it was something that to her was important. So as daring as I can be sometimes, I took a bite out of this delicious, exquisite meal. And I can't tell you what it was because I didn't ask. I just ate I literally was like a little kid licking the plate by the time I was done. That to her was a sign of trust. That was me taking a risk and entering into her world. So how do we leverage the messaging? By letting it be organic and entering into the community's world.
Wonderful.
Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Huerta Mesa. And just so I want to share that I was honored to be part of this research project that they had at Chapman University. And this is how I met Dr. Huerta Mesa, Padres Unidos, Sophie, and I just learned so much about culturally responsive approaches, how to speak with my own community, and not assume that we are all the same. The authenticity, the messaging is just so important for us. And this is why we're on question number 3, but this is really, really important for us to recognize that we need transformational relationships with these organizations and our parents. And when we enter any community, is allow them to welcome us in and learn from them, listen to them, and not assume. So thank you so much. Let's go to our next question. Okay, we have 10 questions, everyone. So, and it's 10:37. Let's see if we can get through them. Okay, can you tell us how parent engagement or engagement with non-English speakers is critical component to disseminate Now, to the dissemination of regional information. I think that we went through this, but Dr. Brown, I wanted to give the stage to you to see if you had any information. And what kind of parent engagement strategies and best practices have you seen work to increase enrollment, job placement, reach initiative outcomes?
I think we've touched on this a lot, and I think our parent participants have pointed out the importance of inclusive English instruction. Like the one thing that hasn't been mentioned today is that as a country, the US meets the needs of 4% of our adult English learners, 4%, which means that even if you think there are ESL programs for parents that are available in your community, they're not going to them, and they're not designed to help parents engage. They're designed to teach them the names of the animals at the zoo. And so if there's anything that I can say as part of this conversation, it's push, push, push on whoever's offering those programs to make them inclusive and have them meet the needs of the parents, because the dual generation strategy is the one that's actually going to change outcomes. The parents who are left behind are the ones who can't understand what's happening in the school, so they can't advocate for their kids. We're seeing more and more refugees coming here. It's not just Spanish speakers, it's people who speak, as we've discussed, other indigenous languages, and then people who speak languages that we don't have any materials for. So making sure that resources are available, A, to give those parents information, and B, to help them get the skills they need to advocate for their kids. I've said it once and I'll say it again. That's how we're going to get the children into career pathways, and the parents too.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Next question, please. Next question. Thank you. How do you recommend industry or educators reach out to parents and the Hispanic community with resources? Oh, okay, we already went through that. I think we're just talking away, huh? We're just covering every question. What are the barriers to assessing career training for you and your student? ¿Qué obstáculos encuentra al buscar oportunidades de entrenamiento profesional para usted o su estudiante?
I'll chime on this one because it's something that I constantly work on, being a parent at the Anaheim Union High School District, and having them offer so many career pathways. And I always say, you know, it's so great that there's all these opportunities, all these pathways. I go, but how are we getting that information out to our parents? How are we giving out workshops? How are we explaining to them that these opportunities exist for our kids and even ourselves as well, that we can possibly benefit from these opportunities? So it's a matter of, I think a lot of it comes down, and this is my opinion, is that we as parents and as family need to be able to be respected and be seen as an equal partner, that our views, our opinions should be valued the same as any other partner within the the school. And so, and giving these trainings out to parents and letting them know what a welder does and how much a welder makes. You know, sometimes we see our kids out there, you know, like, oh, you know, I want him to go to college, but he's out there always with his dad working on the car. And I go, well, do you not know that there's like opportunities for mechanics, and there's, you know, there's a great pay that comes with it. And, you know, once you start explaining the whole process, even with the military, I had my brother-in-law, he's part of the Air Force, but now part of the Space Force. And I took him to one of my kids' school and had him talk about the fact that he went to the military, but he went to the academy, and that he got a degree, and that, you know, he's an engineer and everything that he does. And it's like, I don't go out and like physically fight a war, you know, I'm out, or any battles or anything. So like, I'm behind my computer and this is what I do for the government. And you should have seen the faces on some of these moms. They were like, oh, so you no agarras la pistola y te vas a pelear. And it's like, no. So like, I'm behind a computer and I'm always like, this is what I do. I communicate and I'm in charge of this project at whatnot with through the education that I received. And this is how I got to the academy, you know, explain them the process. And so just change the perspective of how parents saw just the whole military, because through culturally, you know, we're meant to believe that, you know, we're going to go out and fight a battle or war. So I think it's really crucial that we also any kind of information that's given out to our students is also given out to the parents, whether it's at the school, through a cafecito, a sessional workshop, or even through community fairs, you know, coming out into the communities and just letting the community know of all these opportunities.
Thank you, Maritza. And Sophie, I wanted to move on. What about parents that are working 2 to 3 jobs? Los padres que están trabajando 2 o 3 trabajos y no tienen tiempo para ir a los meetings o ¿qué se puede hacer?
Well, I think good things. Pandemic coming is all I things, and many schools take this advantage for connect parents and teachers and everything. And my son's school is coffee with the principal. Every single is the meetings. Uh, m- Sometimes I have many words I cross close you your ears, buddy, and I have connect because it's important to me, and I have the blessed to be part of the Padres Unidos that they care about my life, my sons, my around. So es, no puedo describir la bendición que tengo yo de pertenecer a una organización donde se preocupan por mí,
I
por
can't
mi
describe the blessing.
estabilidad.
Yes, I can't describe the blessings that I have working for an organization that cares for me and my stability.
And when my family is good, I'm be good. I'm better worker. So I single mom, teenagers, he started sport, everything. When you have one goal in your life, you go for. You don't know when you going to get there, but you never get up. And I talk that my with the parents I work with, you never get up. And a little step you do every single day, you're going to get closer that you goal. That's
Thank
what
you.
I can say.
Thank you, Sophie. And Dr. Huerta Mesa?
And just to kind of add to that, so I think one of the biggest barriers to accessing some of the career training for parents and for myself and and all of us, you know, I think in different aspects, is outreach. Like if we don't tailor the outreach to meet the opportunities that these parents have, especially those that are working 2-3 jobs, you know, kind of like what Sophie mentioned, one of the positive things that came out of COVID was an introduction to virtual resources that a lot of parents weren't familiar with and had to become familiar with quickly. So in our parenting classes, so we have parents that are logging in, and some are in person, some are virtual, some are, you know, they have their cameras off, they're at work, but they're able to listen in. And even though they can't respond to the classes because they're working, they are at least hearing some of the conversation that is happening so that they then can practice these techniques or new tools at home. And then it's not just stopping there though. It's the follow-up to that. It's calling them at a time that works for them. If it's 6 in the morning, if it's 8 p.m., if it's noon, if it's in between their lunch breaks, if it's while they're driving to work, hopefully they, you know, they have Bluetooth and everyone's being safe, but it's meeting them where they are and allowing them to listen in and ask them, okay, so were you able to listen in on the class? What did you hear? Was there anything that stood out? Did you try anything? So it's the follow up and follow through to the outreach so that these parents can feel that you are there to walk with them, not to show up when it's between 8 to 5 and it works for you.
And that's what I'm hearing. Walking with is a constant. So we're going, thank you so much. We're going to have one more question and then we're going to go to step number 4. So Perhaps one more person can answer one of these questions. What do you want educators and industry partners to know about your parent leader role in the community, and how important is it for them to connect with you? ¿Qué quiere que sepan los educadores o la industria sobre su papel en la comunidad y por qué es importante que se conecten con usted? Maritza and Sophie, this is for you.
Go ahead and answer that. Well, so I think at the end of the day, it's just really a little bit of like everything that's been touched upon in this amazing workshop. I've been to many, and from the beginning, we've all touched on different points that I think everybody can relate and connect to. And just basically having their buy-in that we are able to sit at the same table and give productive feedback and information that could be useful to reach our community. Why? Because we live in our community. We know our community. We're in day out talking to our neighbors, talking to the moms. We're at the bus stops. We're at the schools. We know what's going on. So if we want to reach our kids, you want to reach us, you want to know how to better connect with the families, connect with the parents, and ask them, how are the kids in your community? How, what is it that you see? I can share with you here, we have a lot of gang activity, and it's very sad. It's like, and we see a lot of these parents, they work a lot. They're not there. That's why the kids are in the streets. So how can we make that connection to work together? Because that's what it is, working together, having that partnership. And within that partnership, parents and families have to be present. And anything that we do, if we want to, really serve the community and be that cultural glue, like everybody's been mentioning, that I loved it when I heard Kenya say it the other day. And I'm like, oh, I love that term, cultural glue. It's so important to have that one-on-one connection as well, as a group, but also as a one-on-one. Get to know the person, because nowadays it's so hard. Everything's so fast-paced, and we all have deadlines. We want to do this and we want to do that. But something that I've found effective in the work that I've done, and since I've started to get involved, is having that one-on-one communication and relationship, getting to know that person. And that's why, in this case, Yesenia, I can call her a friend, not just, the person who's in charge of family engagement, but she truly is my friend. So I'll end with that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. And I just can't tell you how wonderful this all is. Cultural glue, just so you'll know, that term I coined during my dissertation when I was doing research with Padres Unidos, because I really thought that was one of my findings when I spoke with the parents, and I spoke with, to their experience on what they felt after they had gone through the training with Padres Unidos and the experience at Chapman University, and then realize how successful this program was and how it impacted the community. Not only are our parents are the cultural glue, but we as Latino scholars, educators, and leaders we're also the cultural glue that send the messaging. So I'm honored, and I think that this conversation needs to continue. It's almost 11 o'clock, our end time, but there are a few little things that I wanted to talk to you. Maybe we can just open up for a few minutes, or maybe I'll just review these last two slides with you, the what's next and call to action. So how can we help you help us? So if you're again, going back outside of education, academia, and looking at the other resources that are out there, because I'm also looking at resources that our parents can have, that are parents now that they're leaders and they need to move forward in life. And there's a lot of initiatives that are coming with a lot of funding and resources for you. And I would love to bring that forward to our organization so they can share it with their parents, not just, our parents, we're so busy thinking about our children and how our children can move forward, but we are also wanting to move. We need to move ourselves forward. When our kids leave our home, what are we going to do? How are we going to continue to grow? So, how can industry, or how can these different leaders from the outside of academia come to you, and how can you help them help you? So what is the goal? And the three challenges and gaps that are seen when industry goes and tries to connect with, or when educators try to fill a program and can't fill it, then they send out flyers, but for some reason they're not filling these programs or these summer courses or what have you. What are the challenges that you're seeing? And then what is your action? So I think those are things that we need to think about. And then also this person that's going towards the goal. Again, this is the cultural glue that is happening over here. How can we help fill these gaps? So the next slide, please. And then what's your call to action? So once you get to, figuring out what your challenges are, and how is it that what are the steps that you're going to take to get there? So if we're looking at you as a parent, what are your challenges, and how are you going to be able to connect with the resources? Let's just say they don't come to you. How are you going to go to them? So those are things that I want you to think about, and perhaps next time we can really dig deeper in this. But if there's anybody that has something that they want to say in closing, I would love to hear it. But for me, I want to thank you all for just spending time together and sharing your expertise and sharing your stories. And I don't think that this is going to be the last time that we meet. So make sure to connect with one another. I'm here if you need me. You know where to find me on LinkedIn. I'm always there. And then all of our partners, we can reach out to them and work with everyone together. So I look forward to seeing you again. Thank you so much. Does anybody have anything to say? VitalLink, EXP?
I'll
Yes,
say
Amy.
that I have been furiously writing notes here, and I just can't wait to talk to my program team. So many fantastic words of wisdom. Yeah, this everybody needs to get a recording of this workshop, because it's critical for all of us working in this space. So thank you, Dr. Cueto, and the entire panel.
Agreed. I agree. I have all of my notes as well. And I just kept thinking, I want to meet with everyone on this panel individually. That would be amazing to just sit and get to know you better. But also, it's been so amazing. You all have the groups that exist already. So my whole thought was like, okay, well, how can I get my staff to go meet you where you are and just join your groups that already exist and not create a new one? And just start getting our people to kind of understand, like the messaging Maritza said about families understanding what those pathways mean. Our whole job is to teach the students what we do exhibit days and pathway days and all of these things to show the students what these jobs can be. But we could easily translate that for parents. We can easily shift that to be, here are all these amazing pathways and job opportunities for your kids. And how do we share that? And so Maritza mentioned community fairs and events and things that, we can bring that the same information we give the students to the parents. And so I really appreciate all of your times this morning. It's just been amazing to hear and get to know a little bit more about you all.
Thank you so much. Anyone else? Got 4 more minutes.
I just wanted to say something real quick. Sorry. I think one of the things I wanted to make sure that we realize that we're going to make mistakes on this journey, on this path. There's rocks on the road. We're going to trip on them. I'm going to step on someone's toes. I may do this. I may do that. But the truth of the matter is, as long as we stay humble, enter these spaces with curiosity and hope, I'd be open and willing to admit, hey, you know what, I don't speak your language, but I'm here and I'm going to learn from you as much as you're going to learn from me. So just be open to making mistakes. It's what I tell parents in most of our classes is there's no such thing as a perfect parent. You're going to screw up. You're probably going to screw your kid up too, but that's okay.
That's true.
Because as long as we keep going, we're modeling for them that it's okay to be perfect and imperfect both at the same time.
I tell parents and my students that your parents are still growing up. So we're not going to be perfect in the slightest, just like you're not. We aren't either. So I really appreciate being a part of this conversation and this event. It's been really reaffirming that what I hope will be the model for the future actually is happening now, and people are taking it seriously, that this is the only way forward in order for true authentic engagement, focusing on what we can do for the next generation of community members, which is our children. So thank you for having me and being here.
Thank you, everyone. And feel free to share this in your PDs with your teachers, with your counselors, on LinkedIn. We need the message out. We need to continue these conversations because I really, really think that they're missing out if they're not reaching out, if we're not reaching out to our parents. So please let this not be the last